All right, let's talk about something huge. How do we take all the brilliant research that's happening in university labs and turn it into real-world, game-changing impact? The answer? Well, it's probably not what you're thinking. I mean, really think about it for a second. Every single day, you've got researchers making these incredible breakthroughs that could cure diseases, totally transform industries, or solve some of our biggest problems. But where do all those amazing ideas actually go? And that's the tough reality. A huge ocean of innovation, it just stays trapped inside the walls of academia. It never gets out to the people or the markets that really need it. And that is a massive missed opportunity. But here's the thing. There is a path forward. It's a mix of the right mindset, a solid strategy, and a really practical set of tools. And that's exactly the blueprint we're going to lay out for you right here. To really get to the bottom of this, we kind of have to zoom out and ask an even bigger question. Why do we even do this stuff in the first place? Is it just about gaining knowledge for its own sake, or is there something more to it? You know, ever since the Industrial Revolution, the big promise of research has always been to drive human progress forward. But that simple, straight line from an idea in a workshop to a product that changes the world, well, that road has become really winding and a whole lot more complicated. And this brings us right to the heart of the problem. There's this massive gap that separates the lab from the marketplace. Let's call it the commercialization chasm. It's a super frustrating paradox, isn't it? You have some of the smartest people on the planet who've solved these incredibly difficult technical problems, but then they stumble when it comes to turning that solution into a success outside the lab. So why does that happen? Well, the reasons are surprisingly down to earth. It's usually not that the science is wrong, it's that the business case just isn't there. For instance, maybe the solution is just way too expensive to produce. Or it's a brilliant key for a lock that nobody really cares about. It solves a problem that no one's actually willing to pay to fix. Sometimes the researcher is just completely disconnected from the local business world. And of course, there's the classic square peg in a round hole problem. The research just doesn't line up with what the market truly needs. Okay, so if the big problem is this giant chasm, what do? Well, you build a bridge. And that bridge isn't just one single thing, it's an entire ecosystem designed to support an idea and help it grow. And this image just captures the idea perfectly. A great idea simply can't survive in a vacuum. It needs to be plugged into this dynamic network of industry contacts, funding, mentors, and market feedback. It's all about creating the right environment for innovation to really take off. And you know, building the system isn't magic. It's a pretty deliberate, step-by-step process. It all starts with something simple, just making connections through industry visits. Then you start to pull those ideas together, maybe into a central innovation basket. You take the best ones and show them off at conferences and exhibitions to get real feedback. And all the while, you're sharing what you know through things like webinars. And eventually, you can even start to influence policy. See? Each step just builds on the last, creating this powerful momentum. Okay, but wait. Before you go and spend years building this whole ecosystem, you need a quick way to figure out if an idea even has a fighting chance. And this is where we get to the core tool of our blueprint, the idea litmus test. Seriously, think of this as your first, most critical filter. It's a series of really tough questions you have to ask before you sink a ton of time and resources into something. What this really does is force you to switch gears from a purely scientific brain to a commercial one. And the key here is to be brutally honest with yourself. First up, the problem. Is this a real hair-on-fire problem for someone, a costly, urgent pain point they have today? Second, who exactly is your customer? And I don't mean the auto industry. I mean, can you name the specific person who signs the check? Third, what's the value? You've got to put a number on it. It's not just better, it's 20% cheaper or 50% faster. And finally, is the market big enough to actually build a real business around this? And the test doesn't stop there. You have to stare your competition in the face and say exactly why you're better. Then comes the huge reality check. Does this thing actually work out in the messy real world, outside of a perfect lab? You need proof, a working prototype, or some pilot data. And then, the question that makes or breaks everything. Do the numbers actually add up? This right here, this is the ultimate bottom line. Can you actually make money on every single one you sell? And maybe even more important, can your customer get their investment back in a reasonable amount of time? Like, ideally, in less than a year and a half. If the answer to this is no, the idea probably isn't ready for prime time. So you see what's happening here?
When you combine a practical, tough checklist with a smart strategy for building an ecosystem, you create this incredibly powerful pathway from the lab bench to the real world.
And that really is the whole journey, isn't it? It starts with breaking through that initial wall, that isolation that traps so many good ideas. And it ends with creating this vibrant, interconnected network where innovation can finally flourish and have the kind of impact it was always meant to. Look, at the end of the day, what this is all about is a huge shift in mindset. The measure of success can't just be getting a paper published in a fancy journal. It has to be about making a real, tangible, positive change in the world. It's about research for impact. So I'll just leave you with this one final thought. Out there, right now, what brilliant breakthrough is just sitting there, waiting for the right blueprint to be applied? What incredible idea is just one ecosystem away from changing everything? Think about it.